I 100% completely understand what people are talking about. Ugly buildings, bulldozing farmland, building these 5-story buildings, the water, all the rest of that. I completely get all of that. Is that the data centers industry's fault? Yeah, because they're not being very neighborly where they're choosing to go. But also, I need leadership out of the governor's mansion. I need leadership out of the General Assembly. And I don't need just the kind of leadership we normally get where they just pass some bill and doesn't make any sense to me. I need leadership working with these data centers that want to open up in here. And I need to understand exactly what they do, how they work, how much water they're really taking right now compared to some of the, I'm going to call it propaganda that I'm hearing. And I want to hear how much this is important to us tax revenue wise. There's a lot of people that have a lot of things to say about it. So we'll continue to have this conversation. You want to text us 833-804-1140. But like our last guest said, somebody called up a local legislator out in Southwest Virginia, said, I don't know what data centers are. I just don't like them. Let's open up some conversations about that. Because I don't think it's necessarily the data centers themselves for the people on the right. I think there's a lot of people like, oh, I don't like AI. Great. Let's not have data centers. Like our last text message said this morning, I don't like them. Because data centers help me heat and cool my house. Yeah. They're called Nest Thermos. Could data centers help me get drink and food? Yeah. Do you use a computer to buy anything? You think the people that ship the sodas to the store and get the food to the market, do you think they use computers? Probably. Do you go pay with your credit card or your debit card when you buy those groceries? Yeah. Where do you think all that gets processed? Through data centers. We all have this idea, it's all up in the cloud. There is nothing floating above us in the cloud. The clouds were, I think, in many ways, kind of these data centers. And I need to learn more about this, and I will with you. But there was nothing just kind of sitting up there in the cloud and the satellite and space. There were these data centers. You could get them from everywhere you want. And I think when they were talking about the cloud, this is my thought. I mean, if you know better, tell me. When they were talking about the cloud was a way for me to get on my phone and use my phone to get information wherever I want. Kind of like the difference between being tethered to cable television, where I had to be home to watch television on my individual television, and that's where my DVR was, that's where everything else was, and it was all stored right there at my house, as opposed to now, I can go anywhere, watch TV wherever I want, because I have streaming services on my phone. We didn't have, remember when you first got cable TV, there was a box. It came straight from the cable provider. Remember that the coax cable went in there? We're all tethered. Now I cut the cord. I'm online. I stream everything I watch. Where do you think all that comes from? It doesn't come from me individually streaming to Fox News, ESPN, or whatever I'm watching. It goes to a data center. The data center brings all that to my house. So we use this stuff every day, and they're not all for AI. I've got somebody coming on that I asked for the Hudson Institute that kind of explains what's AI and what's data centers through all of this. But I agree with you. When they just put them up willy-nilly wherever they want, that makes no sense to me. And the thing is, they make so much stinking money. I think the data centers have been very arrogant of where they've gone to. So normally, if you've got it was explained to me this way. If I've got an area in town, and normally you'll have like a strip mall, and this is not a residential, but this is how businesses kind of grow. So you think about a main thoroughfare, okay, that you have lots of businesses on. Normally you have businesses that are on the street, and maybe it's a strip mall or a restaurant or something, and then behind them, in the next block over, it's a warehouse. And behind that, if it's anything manufacturing, they go in that third row, that third street back. You don't put that big manufacturing plant right on that main thoroughfare. But what's happened was, when those people want to sell their property in that first row, where normally you have a strip mall, restaurant, or something forward-facing, data centers have so much money, they could just come and buy that first row of businesses, and they put up this big monstrosity, ugly building on that first row, blot out the sun, you can't see anything. And that's where I think they were just going out and, if you've got land and they want to spend 4 times what anybody else is willing, you're going to sell it to them. Same thing with the farmers. It's tough being a farmer in that agricultural land. I don't think we appreciate how tough it is to be a farmer or rancher anywhere in America today. And if someone comes in and they're going to offer you 5 times what your land is worth to put up a data center, that rancher is going to go, I'm going to get out of this business and retire. Anybody's ever seen Yellowstone, that's kind of an insight of how tough the ranching business is. I talked about it. My grandfather grew up a ranch hand. I know how tough that business is. And you get a bad spring, a bad winter, you get a drought, you're wiped out. You're 100% the whim of nature. Mother Nature can make or break you. So I get all of this. That's why I think we need better leadership out of the governor's mansion, out of the General Assembly in a meaningful way, not just kind of passing on edicts from the high and then not worrying about what actually goes on and how it's implemented throughout the Commonwealth. Somebody said, Rich, people need to understand that if we don't build the data centers, then China will win the AI race. If that happens, the USA loses a lot. I'll put it to you this way. There is a fourth industrial revolution coming. The last industrial revolution, United States crushed it. That's why we're the economic power that we are. Now, for the person that said, computers don't control how I heat and cool my house, how I get my food or anything else, point out the fact, no, that's incorrect. Don't think of data centers equal to AI. Think of data centers of everything we do digitally. So if the data centers are coming and AI and digital continues to grow, would you rather have them China-based or American-based? Would you rather us be on the front edge of this next industrial revolution that AI is a part of and the data centers are a big part of, or would you rather have somebody else running the show? I just want to bring up these conversations with you. 833-804-1140. I did have one subject that I did want to touch on today, and that is something that I saw. And I'm gonna do this real quick. We'll get into this a little bit more during the week, but I keep hearing this saying, and I want to just point it out to you: trust policy. In fact, I'm going to reach out to Nicole Jones today on the Richmond City Council. She wants to adopt a formal immigration trust policy, quote unquote trust policy, that would restrict the use of city employees, property, equipment, and residents' information for federal civil immigration enforcement. She wants to put this through so we stop cooperating with ICE. Jay Jones last week put this out there that in Greene County, outside of Charlottesville, he wants to ask the sheriff out there what was going on with traffic stops with ICE in the cars with the sheriffs. Very little has been said about this, but I want to point this out, that we've fundamentally changed our laws in relationship with federal immigration enforcement. So do you remember when Abigail Spanberger in here, she didn't do it on day one, but she made it possible because, again, she says one thing and does enough that's close to kind of what she's doing, but she's got plausible deniability. She said that if somebody wants to break the agreements we have with federal immigration, you can, and then later she came out and broke it because Glenn Youngkin had deputized a lot of state resources to be used in cooperation with ICE. She broke all of that. And then she said, well, in order to do this, you have to have a judicial warrant, knowing full well that ICE is a civil matter because we choose not to pursue criminal charges against people that come into the country illegally because we don't want to throw you in jail and then deport you. We simply deport you if you're here illegally. And now we've changed the law fundamentally here in Virginia. Before it said Washington cannot force Virginia police to enforce federal immigration laws, but willing sheriffs can voluntarily cooperate with ICE through certain programs. The new Community Safety and Trust Act, again, you're going to start hearing this word trust. It's complete doublespeak beginning now in July. Virginia officers generally cannot use local personnel time resources for civil immigration enforcement without a judicial warrant. You see the doublespeak and how I just put up a double negative. You can't do anything for civil immigration enforcement without a judicial warrant. They did that on purpose so they could say, hey, listen, we're still willing to work with ICE. You just have to have something that ICE doesn't have. That's like saying, hey, I want to come out there and be a carpenter and work on the job, but I don't have a hammer. I want to come out and be a carpenter, work on your job, but you can't use a saw. I want to be a carpenter, go out there and work at a job, but you can't use any lumber. You say you want to do one thing, and then you prevent it from happening, and that's exactly what the General Assembly did. I want to point that out because I'm going to look into this even more, and we're going to talk about it here on Richmond's Morning News. So I have a lot of news that we're going to cover this week here on the program. That's why, again, we tell you, either you wake up with Richmond's Morning News or you play catch up all day, because this whole thing of the trust thing that the city council wants to do, wow. The whole thing that the county has, trust. You know what? I trust you to enforce our federal immigration laws for the federal government, and I trust you not interfere, and I trust you take care of the people of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Again, I get it. I know it's a civil matter, but the fact that you created a law that makes it virtually impossible in a spot where I-95 is one of the biggest illegal immigration, drugs, human trafficking thoroughfares in this country is beyond me. It's beyond me. And I'm going to keep talking about it here on Richmond's Morning News. All right, coming up on the program, can I turn to something a little bit lighter today? Freedom 250. They had the big Indy race yesterday. I watched it on TV. It was great. Was the Freedom 250 event in D.C. successful? 833-804-1140. We'll also open up the phones for you after the bottom of the hour. Just start thinking about it. The celebration for America's semi-quincentennial, I thought was awesome. Other people's, not so much. I want to get your opinion on that coming up. It's Richmond's Morning News. I'm Rich Schreier. Thanks for joining us here on News Radio WRVA. By the way, we have that up on Facebook right now. Facebook.com/News Radio WRVA was the Freedom 250 celebration to celebrate our 250th birthday a success. You know what's a success? Every time we go to Green Top Sporting Goods, do you realize Green Top Sporting Goods is a local